Hello everyone. So in today's video, we are going to study blood pressure. Okay. Now, what exactly is blood pressure, or as we like to call it as BP? See, blood pressure, it is the force originating in the pumping action of the heart exerted by the blood against the walls of the blood vessels. Okay. So now it is very much clear in the definition itself that the blood, when it is pumped in the blood vessels by the action of the heart, the blood tends to exert some sort of force on the walls of the vessels, and that force is known as blood pressure. Okay. The blood pressure, it is measured with an instrument called as sphygmomanometer. Okay. So when we talk about this instrument, the sphygmomanometer, it consists of an inflatable rubber cuff. So this is the inflatable rubber cuff, and the cuff is wrapped around the upper arm, okay, and is connected to an apparatus that records pressure, usually in terms of the height of a mercury column or on a dial. So as you can see, our rubber cuff, this one, it is wrapped around the upper arm of the body of the person whose blood pressure is to be measured, and this is then connected to an apparatus which is recording the pressure. The pressure can be recorded in terms of the height of the mercury column, or it can be recorded on a dial. Like in this one, it is recorded on a dial. Okay. However, it can be recorded on the column as well. Okay. So now, when we measure the blood pressure by the instrument sphygmomanometer, there are two pressures which are measured. Okay. The first is the systolic pressure, which is the force that blood exerts on the artery walls as the heart contracts to pump the blood to the organs and tissues. Okay, so you guys know that our heart contracts to pump the blood, right? So we can say that when the heart contracts, or in a more precise way, let's say when the ventricles contract, right? Then that is known as the ventricular systole. See, the word systole means contraction. Okay. And since ventricles contract to pump the blood to the body organs, we call it as ventricular systole. And at that moment of time, the pressure that is exerted by the blood on artery walls, that is known as the systolic pressure. Okay. Now moving to the next pressure, which is the diastolic pressure, which is the residual pressure exerted on the arteries as the heart relaxes between beats. Okay, we know the word residual means something which is left out. So, in the following step, when our ventricles relax and receive another supply of blood from the atria, it will be called as ventricular diastole, or we can say ventricular relaxation, right? And the pressure will be regarded as diastolic pressure. The residual pressure or the leftover pressure which is exerted by the blood in the arteries during the ventricular diastole, that will be regarded as diastolic pressure. Okay, the word diastole is used for relaxation. Now, in a normal case situation, the values which are recorded for these two pressure are, they are as follows. In healthy individuals, systolic pressure is normally between 90 and 120 millimeters of mercury mmHg, while the diastolic pressure is normally between 60 and 80 mmHg. Okay. Hence, in general, a reading of 110 by 80 mmHg would be considered healthy, whereas 80 by 50 mmHg would be low and 160 by 100 mmHg would be high. Okay. So this leads me to our next topic, which is the highs and the lows of blood pressure. Okay, see, keeping an eye on our blood pressure level, it is really important for maintaining a healthy heart and organ function. If not properly monitored and maintained, high or low blood pressure levels can lead to various health risks. Like the first, we can talk about the high blood pressure, which is a blood pressure reading of 130 by 80 mmHg or even higher. Okay, this situation is known as hypertension when too much blood is being pumped into your arteries. Or in simple words, you can understand it as a condition in which your arteries are overworking themselves. Okay, next we have the causes of hypertension, which are obesity, alcohol consumption, increased salt intake, smoking, diabetes, genetics, stress, and aging. Okay, so these are the major risk factors which are associated with high blood pressure. Like you can see, it can be caused due to health conditions like obesity and diabetes, or it can be just due to certain habits of the person, like excessive alcohol consumption, or smoking, or even high salt intake in the food, or we can say even due to stress. Additional factors can be age, or it can be even related to the family history of the person, like the condition can be genetic, right? So these are the some major causes which are responsible for high BP. Next, we have the symptoms. Okay, so they are aneurysm, heart attack, heart failure, strokes, convulsions, dementia, renal failure, and elevated sugar levels. Okay, so the word aneurysm, it means rupturing of the arteries. Okay, next the person can have a heart attack or a heart failure. When the brain is concerned, the person can have symptoms like strokes and convulsions. Okay, convulsions means seizures, or they are popularly known as mirgi ka daura in Hindi. Okay, so convulsions, they are basically seizures. Next, there can be dementia, which is memory loss. The kidneys can suffer from renal failure, and in the blood, we can have elevated sugar levels. Okay, so these all symptoms, they are associated with hypertension. Okay, or we can say high blood pressure. And see, when we talk about these symptoms, they are not very evident in a normal situation. Okay, these symptoms only arise in case of severity, in case of crisis. Okay, usually people with high blood pressure, they show symptoms like anxiety, sweating, and sleeping problems, which are considered usually normal with age. But these symptoms, they are not as severe as the ones I've mentioned in this slide, right? So this is the reason high blood pressure, it is also known as the silent killer, since the symptoms are not very visible or evident. They only are noticeable when the chronic condition, or we can say when the severe or crisis condition arises. Only then these symptoms will show themselves. Okay, next we have the low blood pressure, which is a blood pressure reading of 90 by 60 mmHg or lower. Okay, and it is also known as hypertension, and when blood is not fully flowing to your brain, arteries, and organ. So it's a condition where your blood, it is not reaching to your organs properly. And when we talk about the causes, they are enlisted as pregnancy, blood loss, dehydration, heart problems, problems in the endocrine glands, septicemia, anaphylaxis, and B12 deficiency. Okay, so as you can see, these are the major conditions that could be responsible for low BP. It could be associated with pregnancy, like a pregnant woman has a low blood pressure problem, or it could be hormonal problems like problems related to the endocrine glands, or even vitamin B12 deficiency. It could be due to an injury or something, or the person might be suffering from some heart problems or even anaphylaxis. Okay, anaphylaxis means a strong allergic condition. Okay, and the meds which are provided for such allergic situations, they can contribute to low blood pressure. Okay, lastly we have septicemia, which means infection in the bloodstream. Okay, we can have bacterial infection in the bloodstream, so that leads to septicemia. So all these uh, are the causes for low blood pressure. They could be held responsible for hypertension. Now coming to the major noticeable symptoms that should raise alarm bells, we have blurred vision, dizziness, fatigue, fainting, rapid and low breathing, nausea, lack of concentration. Okay, so the condition of hypertension can present itself with blurred vision. The person won't be able to see clearly. He would have blurred vision. He would face lack of concentration, nausea, or we can say vomiting. The person may feel fatigue, dizziness, and may eventually faint. So, as you can see, we have learned both hypertension and hypotension, right? And you guys can notice that both of these conditions, they can be very dangerous for our heart and for our bodies, right? Thus, it is very much essential to monitor the blood pressure regularly every few months at regular intervals. It is very much crucial to keep an eye out for these conditions. See, as far as the factors like age and heredity are concerned, we can neither stop them nor prevent them. So, the least we can do to save ourselves from these conditions is to adopt a healthy lifestyle, free from smoking, free from alcohol consumption, right? And the best way to do that is, and to ensure great health, is to have a healthy diet, exercise regularly, and drink lots of water to make sure our body gets all the nutrition it needs to function well. Okay, so here in my session, thank you.